number 92, VTR 102166, air 11166, take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. For the first time since I have come to live at Collinwood, I am away from the gloomy mansion I now call home, waiting to see a man who may be able to help me in my search for my identity.
Miss Partridge, I'll see Miss Winters now. Well, Miss Winters, welcome to Bangor. This is an unexpected pleasure.
You know who I am?
Of course.
Well, then please tell me, who am I?
You're Victoria Winters, the young lady Elizabeth Stoddard engaged to tutor her nephew, David.
No, I mean, who am I really?
Sit down, Miss Winters. I'm sorry if I gave you a false impression. I know who you are now, but as to your past, I'm afraid I know as little about it as you do. Miss Winters, I meant only that Mrs. Stoddard has spoken to me about you a number of times.
She's very fond of me.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Now, exactly what brings you to my office?
Well, I expect you know that I was brought up in a foundling home in New York.
Yes. To save you from having to repeat it, I'll say that I believe that I know everything about you that Mrs. Stoddard does.
I wonder.
You wonder what?
Well, sometimes I get the feeling that Mrs. Stoddard knows more about me than she admits to.
You mean that she's keeping something from you?
It's just a feeling.
Well, why should she do anything like that?
I don't know. I'm probably making the whole thing up. But, well, suppose that my father turned out to be a convicted murderer or insane.
Oh, you're borrowing trouble that doesn't exist.
Well, you asked for a motive, and there's a perfectly good one. You said yourself she was fond of me.
Well, it's true that I know that she wouldn't willingly see you hurt, Miss Winters, but on the other hand, I don't think she'd willingly keep information from you. You're entitled to all and any information that you want. That is, of course, providing I can supply it.
Well, I wanted to show you this.
Where did you get this?
I found it in Collinwood.
I see.
It has your firm's name on it.
Yes, it's one of our old ledger sheets, obviously. Will you tell me why it interests you?
Well, there is a name on it. Right there. B. Hanscom.
Well, this is a very old ledger sheet. Was it in a book?
No, it was in a pile of papers in a box.
Well, did you notice if the box had a date on it?
I'm afraid I didn't.
Well, it would have helped.
Well, do you know her name?
Her name?
Yes, I know that at one point there was a girl named Betty Hanscom who lived in Collinsport.
Well, in that case, I'm afraid I can't be of any help after all. The only Hanscom I can remember was the Collins butler.
The butler?
Oh, you mustn't think that Collinwood was always the way it is now. There was a time when it took a large staff to run the place.
Well, do you remember his name?
You know, I haven't the vaguest notion. He was just always called Hanscom.
Well, it began with a B.
Yeah, so I see, but I don't think I can remember. Bert, Ben, Brad. No, it's no use.
Well, what is that list of names with the amounts of money opposite?
Well, it seems to be an old monthly wage list of the employees at Collinwood.
Were there that many?
Oh, there was a large staff.
But still...
Well, 2 chauffeurs, 3 cooks, upstairs maid, butler, housekeeper, gardeners, handyman. And on special occasions, they would bring in a dozen extra to help. This must have been one of those times.
It's hard to believe that there was ever any real gaiety at Collinwood.
Oh, believe me, there was. Even after Elizabeth married Paul Stoughton.
And it all stopped when he disappeared.
Yes, I believe it was about that time.
And that's when the servants were discharged.
Approximately. I told you that's an old sheet.
18 years old?
Well, it could have been much more than that. 20, 25 years, even more. In those days, when an employee had a job at Collinwood, it was a job for life.
Well, apparently not, seeing as they were all discharged.
Oh, I meant before then.
Do you think any of the others on that list might know about B. Hanscom?
Possibly. But before you get your hopes up, I think I should tell you that I believe all of them left Collinsport.
All of them?
To the best of my knowledge.
Well, do you know where any of them went?
No. There's no reason to keep in touch.
Do you think your partner might know?
My partner?
Yes, the other half of Garner and Garner.
Why, I rather doubt it.
Could I ask him anyway?
Frank, would you step into my office a minute?
Right away.
You seem to indicate that all was not well at Collinwood.
Well, you heard about Mr. Malloy's death.
Yes, that's very sad. He was a fine man. How's Elizabeth taking it?
Well, she was very upset, but I think that she's accepted the fact it was an accident.
Oh, Frank. Miss Winters, this is my son, Frank, the other half of Garner
Hello.
and Garner. Miss Winters comes to us from Collinwood, where she teaches young David.
Well, if there'd been teachers like Miss Winters when I went to school, I might still be there.
Thank you very much. Well, of course he couldn't know anything about
About a
it.
ledger that's 20 to 30 years old? Hardly.
But it did say Garner and Garner.
Oh, well, at that time, the other half is my brother. He died 5 years ago.
Well, is there anything I can do to help?
I'm afraid there isn't anything anyone can do.
Try me.
Miss Winters came to Bangor on a wild goose chase, Frank.
How do you mean, Dad?
Does he know about me?
No, I don't believe he does.
Well, it's a very long story, Mr. Garner.
My father's Mr. Garner. My name's Frank.
Frank.
And I don't have anything in particular to do for the next 24 hours.
Well, unfortunately, I do. I've got to be in court. How long do you expect to be in Bangor, Miss Winters?
Well, there doesn't seem to be much more point in my staying here, so I thought I'd go back tonight.
Well, then, in case I don't see you again, let me tell you what a great pleasure it's been to meet you. I can report to Mrs. Stoddard that she was most fortunate in the selection of a tutor for her nephew.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Frank, if you leave the office, tell Miss Partridge where I can reach you.
Now, what's all the mystery?
Well, it's very complicated.
Okay. Would you care to tell me about it?
Well, it's about this sheet I found in Collinwood.
Well, I see the firm's name is on it, but, excuse me. Doesn't mean a thing to me, nothing at all.
Well, it was made out a little bit before your time.
What did Dad say about it?
He said it was a monthly wage list from Collinwood when they had a lot of servants.
You're not kidding. It looks like the Christmas list for the Waldorf Astoria.
Well, that was a long time ago. Since then, all the servants were dismissed, and most of the rooms were closed off. Now there's only one caretaker to do the heavy work. That's all.
I don't get it.
Neither do I.
Does Dad know all this?
Yes. But that's not why I came here.
Okay, tell me.
Well, I'm trying to find out who I am. You see, when I was a baby, I was left on the steps of a foundling home. And I grew up there, always hoping to find out who my parents were.
I see.
Well, a short while ago, I came across the name B. Hanscom. And I felt that I had some connection with it. And then, it popped up here on this list.
You asked Dad about it?
Yes, he said it was the Collins butler.
Anything more?
No, he didn't know his first name or where he is now.
Well, this is a monthly wage list, so it shouldn't be too tough. After all, there are still only 12 months in a year, aren't there? I mean, even if we have to cover, say, 20 years, that's still only, what, 240 lists? We go through the files.
And you think there might be a record of this?
The firm of Garner and Garner never throws anything away.
But how'd you know you'd have something like that?
Well, this is a copy, so we must have the original stashed around here someplace.
And it might tell you something more.
Well, what you want to do is find out where B. Hanscom is, right?
Yes.
All right, all I have to do is look at the last list with his name on it and see if there's an address where that last check was sent. Simple?
Well, you certainly make it sound simple.
Look, where are you staying? At the hotel?
Yes.
Okay, look, why don't you go back there and rest up? Looking through the files of Garner and Garner's a dusty job. I'll let you know the minute I find anything.
And if you don't find anything?
I'd like to let you know anyway, if I may.
I'd appreciate that.
I'd appreciate the opportunity. Miss Partridge, call Emil Jones. Tell him I'm going to be tied up for lunch. And listen, see if you can't get the rest of the afternoon clear for me, too.
Thank you. I think I'll have a grilled cheese sandwich and a cup of coffee.
Certainly.
May I join you?
Well, you seem to have made up your mind to do it already. How can I stop you?
Well, you could say no, and I could slink away properly chastised.
Sit down.
No luck, huh?
What do you mean?
Well, you told me you were coming to Bangor hoping to find some clue to your true identity. Either you had no luck in finding it, or else you found it and you don't like what you found.
How can you tell?
By looking into your eyes. Your eyes are a dead giveaway. One look and you know everything there is to know about you.
I wish that were true. Sometimes I think there's a conspiracy against me ever finding out who I am.
How can that be, Vicky? Surely you don't suspect the Collins family of keeping anything from you.
Well, I didn't until today.
What happened today?
Can I trust you?
Why not? I trust me. And I'm a pretty tough guy to convince.
Well, you were making all sorts of threats on our drive up here.
Yeah, I guess it might have sounded like a threat. I didn't mean it to.
Well, what did you mean it to sound like?
A warning.
A warning about what?
Well, if I tell you that, then it's going to sound like a threat again.
What is it you want it to sound like?
A friendly warning.
Why?
Well, because I'd like to think we're friends.
Burke, I don't pretend to understand you for a minute.
Good. That makes us even.
Don't you understand yourself?
No. Well, that isn't what I meant. I understand myself very well. The person I don't understand is you.
I don't see why it's so difficult to understand me.
Well, you came up to Bangor on the flimsiest excuse in the world, and obviously it didn't work out. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
And you still can't bring yourself to believe that the Collins family has anything to do with it, with your disappointment.
Well, why should they?
And I think it You came up here hoping to find some relationship between the unknown Victoria Winters and the Collins family.
No, that's not true.
Well, when eventually you do find out who you are, and I'm convinced that you will, I'm sure you'll find out that you belong to people a lot more and finer than the Collins family could ever hope to be.
Now, why do you say that?
Because you're a finer person than anyone in that family.
I suppose I should thank you for that.
No. No, you shouldn't. Because it's true.
Thank you.
Do you want to order, sir?
Yes, I'll have a double... No, I'll have the same thing. Well, I was going to order a drink. A double one.
Well, don't let me stop you.
Well, I thought I might drive back to Collinsport tonight. Can I give you a lift?
Well, you're very kind.
No, not at all. Not any more than I would be to a little stray kitten. Because that's what you remind me of, a little stray kitten who can't find out who her mother and father might be. But there's one big difference.
What's that?
Well, a kitten usually doesn't care.
Is it so terrible that I care?
No. No, it's not. And, Vicky, no matter how I sound, I care, too.
I'll be very happy to have you drive me back to Collinsport.
Good. I've got a little business to tend to. I'll come and get you later. Where will you be? Here at the hotel?
I have no place else to go.
Well, I think I'll be finished with my business about 5 or 6. Will you be ready by then?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to leave right now.
I'm sorry, Vicky, that your trip wasn't successful.
I should be used to it by now.
Hello, Vicky. Am I interrupting?
Not at all. Mr. Devlin, Mr. Garner.
Garner?
Frank Garner.
Garner and Garner, lawyers.
Legal and accounting, Mr. Devlin.
Must be your father that I know.
Mm-hmm. Richard Garner.
Yes, he's the one. Well, it's good to meet you.
Pleasure. Look, I'm sorry.
No,
if I
don't
interrupted
worry. I
anything.
was just leaving. I was just telling Vicky I have some business to take care of. I was just going when you came up. See you later.
Thank you.
My pleasure. I'll be seeing you again, too. I hope you like grilled cheese sandwiches.
Devlin. Now, where have I heard that name?
He's Burke Devlin from Collinsport.
Oh, yes.
He's not exactly on friendly terms with Roger Collins and Mrs. Stoddard.
Yeah, I know the story.
But that was 10 years ago.
Well, I wasn't personally involved. I didn't mean that. But Dad was the attorney for Roger Collins in that manslaughter case, and he's told me about it.
Did he tell you that Burke insists that he was innocent?
They always do. Sometimes it helps with the parole board. How long did he serve, you know?
5 years.
And that was 10 years ago. He must have done very well since then.
From what I hear, he's made a fortune.
Good for him.
Do you mean that?
Of course. I've always envied people like that. Oh, you know me. I had it handed to me. Born with a silver spoon in my mouth, all that kind of thing.
It doesn't show.
Doesn't, huh? I think that statement has made me happier than any I've heard since I passed the bar exam.
Your sandwich, sir?
Huh? Oh, thank you. I'm going to eat this sandwich in honor of my new acquaintance with Miss Victoria Winters.
You didn't find out anything about B. Hanscom, did you?
Look, don't let it worry you. We have cases of files in our warehouse, and I'm going to look through them the first chance I get.
But you didn't find anything.
No, not yet. Look, believe me, Vicky. I'm going to dig until I come up with some sort of answer. I'm going to do everything in the world I can to help you.
Hello, Roger. Garner here. May I speak to Elizabeth, please? Elizabeth, I've been tied up in court all day, or I would have called you earlier. I think you ought to know that Victoria Winters paid me a visit this morning and asked a lot of questions. Well, she was in Bangor and called for an appointment. I couldn't very well refuse, could I? No, Elizabeth. No, you're not to worry. Everything is completely under control. You just leave everything to me. I'll let you know.
Enjoy the high comedy of Love on a Rooftop in color tonight at 9:30, 8:30 Central Time here on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production.